Yes, the draws for the Afcon 2025 have happened. And of course, the Super Eagles of Nigeria are in Group C as we hope to do one better than we did in 2023 by reaching the final. And of course, this year we want to win. Today, we're just going to discuss the group stage draw. We're going to talk about the different groups. And of course, we're going to focus on Nigeria's group in particular. With me here, as always, I have a guest. This time, he's Olu from Nigeria Football Weekly. Olu, welcome to EaglesTracker.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's always a pleasure to be on. Happy New Year for anyone who's still celebrating the New Year. But,
Yes.
always a pleasure to come and talk Super Eagles.
Yes, thank you very much, Olu. And of course, my name is AyoT. You guys know me from EaglesTracker of Nigerian Football. Let us get into the conversation. I'll just run through all the groups very quickly, and then we'll take it group by group, and then we'll wrap up by really diving into Nigeria's group in particular, and then we'll give our predictions as well. Okay, so in Group A, we have the host nation Morocco paired with Mali, Zambia, and Comoros. In Group B, we have Egypt, of course, the best team in the Afcon as far as we're concerned. South Africa, Angola, Zimbabwe. Group C, we have Nigeria, Tunisia, Uganda, and Tanzania. Group D, Senegal, DR Congo, Benin Republic, and Botswana. Group E, Algeria, Burkina Faso, Equatorial Guinea, and Sudan. And then Group F, defending champions Cote d'Ivoire with Cameroon, Gabon, and Mozambique. Olu, I'll throw this question to you just to kick us off. When you saw the groups after the draws, what was the first feeling that you had? What was the first thing that came to your mind?
First feeling was, I guess you could say, relief or luck or ecstasy. Not to be arrogant, but when you're a team that's in pot one, we're very accustomed to, especially as Nigerians, we know the banana skin ties we could face from pot two or pot three or pot four. In all our qualification recently, we're very used to potential hazards in terms of these groups. So we knew some of the teams that we wanted to avoid, as we spoke about before coming on, the likes of a Gabon, for example, or Equatorial Guinea in pot three, or even Benin Republic, who beat us in World Cup qualifiers. It's quite a pot three team, but we know that on a given day, they could give us a tough time. Pot two teams, even like South Africa, I didn't mind playing them for the rivalry, for the ginger. But let's be honest, on any given day, a South Africa or a Mali could really give you the work. And while I didn't mind playing Cameroon, I think my overall initial feeling is, out of all the teams at Afcon, out of all the pot one teams, Nigeria should be happiest with the draw when you consider the quality of the opponent and who we have to face. No qualms there, Eric Chele. Another blessing for you. Please just focus on the World Cup qualifiers. But it's looking good.
Oh yeah, I'll echo that sentiment. I feel like I just felt relief as well as joy. I was doing a live watch along, so if anybody watched it, they'll know how I reacted to it initially. But for me, like you said, the teams that I wanted us to avoid, we managed to avoid those teams. Even from pot four, I just didn't want to face a team like Zimbabwe because we're already facing them in the World Cup qualifiers. I didn't want to face a team like Comoros because they are a team on the up that we know can pose a threat if you're not, too careful. In pot three, a team like Benin Republic, we know we're gonna draw with a bunch of Nigerian Beninoa people on their team. They're always gingered when they face us. And like you rightly mentioned, they've beaten us already. A team like Angola, they're pot three, but we know what they can do. We know that they have quality players. If you're not at your best, they've stopped us from going to World Cup before, so they can always pose a threat. A team like Zambia, also in pot three, but we know Zambia, on any given day, they are a team that's ready to compete. And then going into pot two, I didn't want to face Mali because there's the story with Eric Shell. If we manage to draw Mali, there's going to become that rivalry. They want to show he's missing. A team like South Africa, we already know the rivalry is strong. We're playing them World qualifiers. I just didn't want to face them. Let's face them in the quarters or semis and beat them. But ultimately, I think I agree with you that of all the pot one teams, we're probably the ones that are going to be the most pleased with the way these draws have turned out. Let's now take it from group to group, and then let's discuss who we think can do well, who we think might disappoint us a little bit. We'll start from Group A. Host nation Morocco going up against Mali, Zambia, and Comoros. I looked at the group stage and I thought, this might be the toughest group of the tournament. What do you think?
I think you're close, to be honest. I think when I initially saw the draw, I would say three groups leapt out to me in terms of like the quality of the top three teams. But when you then add in the quality of the fourth team, yeah, I would agree that A is definitely toughest. if you include pot 4 teams, As you mentioned already, Comoros, they're only in pot 4 because of the lack of a storied history in their footballing existence.
Yeah.
But when you look at the way they've performed in the last 2-3 years, there's no doubt that this is a team that's on the up in any shape or form that you look
They
at.
did not lose a single game in qualifying.
Exactly. They even topped Tunisia, who were playing in our group, in qualifying. So Comoros, we already know what they've done to our neighbors, Ghana. Obviously we don't want to rub it in, but no Ghana
We want to rub it in. I don't mind.
It's quite interesting. So at least they don't have to lose to Comoros for a third successive Afcon. It can take the first two. So I think when you look at that group for sure, you know that on any given day, Zambia, as you said, some days they flatter to deceive. They kind of remind me of the way I think about Serbia when I think about European countries. On any given day, they have talents that could really hurt you, especially Dakar and, Mwepo before he had to retire. But they really flatter to deceive sometimes, but you're not sure what kind of team you're going to get. If they're motivated on any given day, it could be a tough time. And look, whether we like it or not, Mali, they even performed so well that we came to take their coach. If not for the fact that Ivory Coast were the host team, let's be honest, Mali outplayed Ivory Coast in that quarterfinal. And you can see why Eric Chelle was pouring water on his head. Because Mali as a team, they could have easily ended up in the final, let's be honest. If they had to play DR Congo in the semi-final instead of the Ivory Coast, we all know how that could have ended up. When it comes to the pool of midfielders as well, Mali, because of the academies, generation, foot here or there, they will always produce talent. That one is a given. Yes, they don't have the natural affinity for producing top strikers or wingers because their population is obviously much smaller than ours. But Mali is a tough side that you face on any given day. And we can't rule out Morocco. Look, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to administration, doing everything the right way things should go in an international footballing organization right now, Morocco is the flag standard bearer for Africa. Whether it comes to facilities or being able to host even draws or tournaments, whether it's the women's or the under-17s or under-20,
Investment, everything.
Morocco are always prepared.
Yeah.
They're the one country in Africa that we can all look to and say they have the same kind of facilities as a top European or South American nation will have. They have their own Clairefontaine. They have their Mohammed IV complex. Everybody trains there, all the levels. They have hotels. They have grade A standard pitches, everything that you need as a country to say that you're giving your teams and your players the platform to succeed. Morocco have it. They also have that intangible factor, which we all Africans have, that passion for the sport, that love for the sport. When you look at even the ceremony today and the way the Moroccans put a show of unity, having the stars wearing Moroccan shirts or asking questions to Moroccan public and they're all talking about how much they love the team, it is not a coincidence. Morocco do the things that Nigeria take for granted. It's not just going to happen. You must build the relationship back with your country. And then obviously they did not make the semi-finals by accident. So Morocco can never ever be discounted, especially because this is going to be the first home Afcon that they'll be playing since they won it in 1976. So that means you are looking at what, almost 50 years? It's 696, almost 50 years. They must be gagging. So I think that group is going to be amazing. But one thing that I must mention is Morocco, whenever they've been given pressure and expected to perform, we've seen that sometimes they might
falter.
Is when there's less expectations on them, like the World Cup, where they said they will not even make their group. So that's one to watch out. And I just hope CAF do not pussy out, excuse my French, and they give the first game as Morocco versus Mali. Let's just go bass balls from the start. So
No,
that
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first game is Morocco Comoros.
it's going to be Comoros.
Yeah,
I had a feeling there.
Versus Sport 4. Yeah, that's how they
Okay. Makes sense. Let them ease them in. But I think it could be a banana skin. But to be honest, I think Morocco, with the support that they have and the players that they have, and we also know they have the problem that we sometimes have in Nigeria. I saw a video of how Germany convinced Musiala to play for Germany over England. Then you now see one NFF official will tell you that we're Nigeria. They must just play for us. Meanwhile, when you look at Morocco, they're the one country in Africa right now. If a player is eligible to play for Morocco, yes, they might have lost out on Lamine Yamal because Spain decides to cap him at 15. But 98% or 90% of any player that's eligible for Morocco and their European nation that they were born in or raised in, as at today, they more often than not choose Morocco. Even Hakimi, we know that he was born and raised in Spain and he chose Morocco. So that we can learn a lot of things from them. And I really expect them to put on a show. because they have the World Cup to look forward to in 2030
In
as well,
2030, yeah.
which they're hosting. If I'm, what's that our new president? I can see his face in my head.
Ibrahim Gusso.
So please go and study Morocco, please. If you have to copy them, go and learn, please. And then let's see how it goes. But it should be a very tasty group for sure.
No, yeah. I think I agree this is going to be a tasty group. This is one of those groups that I see 3 teams qualifying out of. You know, Morocco, I would expect them to qualify, even though I don't think it's going to be a smooth ride for them. I think they could easily get 6 or 7 points. You know, well, Mali, of course, a team that reached the semis last time. It would be a shock to me if they're not able to get out of their group. Zambia, like I mentioned, a team that can shock anybody on any given day. And then Comoros, a team on the up that will be hoping that they can do, very well in this tournament. Comoros, their best finish was round of 16 in 2021, and they'll be hoping that they can even do better than that in this edition. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure. But at the end of the day, I want to believe that Morocco and Mali would have what it takes to finish first and second in that group, maybe in whatever order. And then Zambia and Comoros will battle out for that third spot. But I see 3 teams coming out of this group for sure. Let's move on to Group B. In Group B, we have Egypt going up against our rivals, South Africa. Then we also have Angola, and then we have Zimbabwe. This one, Egypt, 7-time champions, most successful side as far as the Afcon is concerned. We have South Africa, who we know just fell short of reaching the final last year, thanks to us. And of course, they'll be hoping that they can do better in this edition. Angola, we know the quality that Angola have, and the likes of Mabululu, quarterfinalists 3 times in competition. And then, of course, Zimbabwe, who are also in our own qualifying group for the World Cup. They've never got past the group stage, so they're probably the least favorites to do something in this group. But how do you feel about Group B?
Similar sentiments, bro. I think this is another group that, like I said, there's 3 groups that when you look at the top 3 teams, you really, really feel that, it could be a battle on any day. We love Afcon because of its unpredictability. Even though people like to talk about the fact that when Afcon is being hosted in the north of Africa, we tend to see North African teams do well. But remember when Egypt hosted it a few years ago? There's still shocks all around,
Yeah.
So I think we have a lot to be really excited for this group. Egypt, they look like they're having a bit of a mini resurgence. After failing to qualify for the World Cup, they've reset. They're doing very well in World Cup qualifiers at the moment. And look, it looks like they finally have somebody that could help Salah. Omar Mamouche, we all know about how well he's done in the Bundesliga. Even his eye test in his first game for Man City against Chelsea. I know you're a Chelsea fan, so you watched the match.
Yeah.
The guy, he definitely looks promising, and we know he scored in the last Afcon. So Egypt look like they're getting back to their former heights. And of course, with them being in the north, they will feel a lot more comfortable. So I expect Egypt to do amazing things. South Africa, look, the more they continue to build on their performances, we know that from a chemistry perspective, they're probably one of the best, if not the best on the continent, simply because majority of their players play in the same league, or even, in fact, come from
playing the same club.
One team, Mamelodi Sundowns. Maybe they might take some from Kaizer Chiefs or some from Orlando Pirates, but as far as chemistry-wise, that is literally intangible. And we saw how well they did at Afcon. Obviously, we have to also thank VAR for them because we were supposed to go 2-0 up before they canceled Osimhen's goal. But they still gave us a tough time and they came third, which is a very respectable performance for them, especially the fact that they did not host it. The only time that they've made the final and won was when they hosted it, and Nigeria was banned from playing football. So we have to remind them.
1996.
So shout out to them. And as you said about Angola, Angola were quarterfinalists. We literally had to beat them with our star players just under a year ago. So they can never, ever, ever be written out. So I think this is a very tasty group. But in all honesty, I think it's time for Egypt to rise and just dominate this group. I can see Egypt getting 9 points, if I'm being honest. But I think South Africa and Angola will be a slug, especially if Angola can keep up the momentum. Whichever one of these 2 teams can keep up the momentum from Afcon last year. We know that South Africa in our World Cup group, so we know how they've been performing. Ironically, in their World Cup qualifying group, they've not lost a match, but they have the same problem as Super Eagles. They like to draw games. At least they will have 1 win so far. So they're only 2 points off Cameroon, who are top of this group. So honestly, I can see it being a toss. But I think this is one of those groups, similar to what you said for Group A, where we will see 3 teams make the round of 16. Zimbabwe, unfortunately, I'm not trying to be harsh. even though I know you got a draw against Nigeria, which I'll be honest, it still haunts me every day. But I think Zimbabwe will definitely bow out of this group. But of course, watching AFCON, we must always caveat anything is possible and any surprise is possible. But it looks relatively straightforward for me.
No, yeah, I think I agree with you. It's a group that's, I think I'm expecting 3 teams to qualify out of the group. I would expect Egypt, South Africa, and Angola to all qualify. Zimbabwe, I'm sorry. I think you guys are going to get knocked out in the group stage again. But it does not mean that they're not able to get 1 or 3 points in the group. Anything can happen. Egypt, they disappointed at the last AFCON, getting knocked out in round of 16 against DRC. So I'm sure that they will be gingered to do better this year. So I'm excited to see how Mohamed Salah, like you rightly mentioned, Omar Mamouche, another star that has come into the limelight of the world. It's going to be nice to see. Angola, we know what they can do. We saw them, at last AFCON. I mean, Mabululu, man, that goal that he scored, I still replay that goal in my head over and over again, and I'm like, the quality of that finish. So it's going to be an exciting one. I'm looking forward to it. Let us go to Group C, where we have, of course, Nigeria going up against Tunisia, Uganda, and Tanzania. Interestingly enough, random fact that doesn't matter, but I just want to say, if you look at the alphabetical order of all teams that are in the AFCON, Tanzania, Tunisia, and Uganda come one after the other, and we somehow drew three of them. Tanzania will be making their 4th appearance. Of course, their best finish ever is in the group stage, 3 times finished in the group stage. Tunisia, 22nd appearance, champions in 2004, and then Uganda, 8th appearance, runners up in 1978. So we're facing 2 teams that have never won this competition, and then of course Tunisia, who have won it once. Nigeria, if you don't know, 3-time champions. Olu, what do you see happening here? How do you rate our chances of qualifying from this group?
With all due respect to these teams, I think one of the best things that's happening for Nigeria is the fact that this tournament is being played in 11 months' time. So that the fact that we have a new coach, we know he plays an attacking philosophy in terms of footballing. So I think that timing is only going to be a benefit for Nigeria. I must add that there's the caveat that if we don't make the World Cup, I think that could be disastrous for us just because morale-wise,
they might let the coach go.
We all know that. And then also, we do know that in the past, like in 2006 Afcon, even though we did not make the World Cup, we still went to Afcon and came 3rd, which is the position we love the most for some reason. So we just need to caveat that. But make no mistake about it, like we've spoken about this. This is a very, very easy group. Nigeria, we're like the England of Africa in terms of getting the rub of the green when it comes to these draws. Even this World Cup qualifier group that we're struggling with, let's be honest, look at the teams they gave us. We should not be struggling. Last AFCON, yes, they gave us Cote d'Ivoire, but they also balanced it and gave us Equatorial Guinea. And who was that our last team, Chef?
Who did we have in our last AFCON?
It was an easy team that we should flog. So when you just think about
it, was Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau.
So, in terms of rub of the green, we cannot complain here. Tanzania, if Nigeria are not winning this game by multiple goals, then we're wasting our time. And I like the fact that we'll be slightly humble because we remember how we started the last AFCON where we drew with Equatorial Guinea.
That 1-1, and we had to equalize.
Exactly. So I think this is going to be good for us. We're not going to disrespect any teams anymore because we also know what's happening in our World Cup qualifiers. So when you have a humble Nigeria, I think that's where we're most dangerous. So hopefully, the way 2024 panned out, we went to the AFCON final, then we started struggling in our qualifiers. I actually think it's a blessing in disguise. Because when Nigeria is too pompous and we think that everything is just going well, that's usually a recipe for disaster. So now we can reset, put everything in the back of our minds. And I think the fact that our players know they have to win every World Cup qualifier game is probably even good because no game can be taken for granted. So if we can take that kind of energy, we know we'll play 4 of those games in September and October. So let's be honest, there'll be a FIFA window maybe in November for friendly matches. There might be a FIFA window in June for 1 or 2 friendly games. But those June windows are never good because everybody wants to go on holiday.
And there's the Club World Cup, so a lot of players might not be
World Cup.
available.
Thank you. Even though I don't know how many of our players will play, but still, I just think I'm trying to be a positive Patrick and see those omens that could help us. But I really think that these factors will allow us to really focus on our opponents. Tanzania, I have no fear. No offense to any Tanzanian that watches this. Well, let's just be respectful. We are not Nigeria's mates. We should be really whitewashing Tanzania. Even Uganda, let's be honest, Uganda are ranked 88th in the world. We should not really be struggling with Uganda. However, I want to caveat that in African Cup of Nations qualifying, Uganda won 4 out of their 6 matches. Yes, they were in a group that had Republic of Congo and South Sudan, who are not very good footballing teams. But one thing I must give Uganda kudos is they beat Republic of Congo away, and they also drew away against South Africa. South Africa even needed a last-minute goal to draw that game. So this is a team that on any given day could spring a surprise. But one thing me and you know, there's no more focused Nigeria than when they have a tournament to play. When they know that something is at stake and they can see their name on the back of their jersey, not the qualifiers where it's just
There's no name.
that's when Nigeria seems to come alive. We should also have a very hungry Victor Osimhen by the time this comes. He'll probably be playing in the Premier League by then,
By
hopefully,
then,
for the team that he wants to play for. I've been seeing these Boniface rumors that have made me upset today, but let's not talk about that one for now. But hopefully, we'll see Lukman and Osimhen who would have even advanced more in their careers. We know there's a few people breaking through, whether it's the Christian Uches of the world, the Hamzat Ojediorans of the world. Saudi Libashu is
see, the
establishing
thing is,
himself.
December is so far away that a lot could have changed in the football landscape by then.
Exactly.
Some people might have made moves that benefit them. Some people might have made moves that don't work in their favor.
Exactly.
Some people might have just sprung up from nowhere. I mean, this time last year, nobody was talking about Crisanto Suchi. All of a sudden, his name is in the conversation.
Exactly.
People were not calling for Farouk Kudari. All of a sudden, people are fighting for him now. So a lot can change between now and
Or
December.
even Akko Adams now all of a sudden he's signed for Sevilla. By
Yeah.
the way, if you do well in La Liga, I'm sorry, that bumps you up the queue. You know, whether you like it or not. Because
Look at this young centre back, Rinso Suji, that just joined Club.
bro, I was running through like the Nigeria pool of players we have. Let me know even like I know you would have been tracking him. I didn't know who the brother was, man, until I saw the move. So the good thing is we have a lot of Omens that just look like, you know what, I know Yemachi just moved to Olympiacos, so I'm not even mad at that move because I think even if you're not in Europe, even if you're not in a league that's too strong, playing for the best team in the country, competing in Europe and having that pressure and expectation of you have to win the trophy. You know, the Olympiacos owner is the same guy that owns Nottingham Forest. Marinakis, that man don't play around. So I like that pressure for him, actually. You know, it's very different from when you're playing for a Boa Vista. You know, all I know, you know that
to lose every game.
brother, Osai Samuel, all I know, you know, even if we go through the list of players, we can say, okay, even where we're struggling a little bit, like you said, a lot can change. And the good thing is we keep producing these pools. Even when I look at the opportunities for dual nationals, I'm 99% sure 2 or 3 of the real promising ones we play for Super Eagles come December because not everybody can play for England or Germany or wherever they want to play for. So I just feel like this is a very good opportunity for us to just Uganda and Tanzania have no problems. I think here we will have the same predicament as last Afcon. There'll be a game against Tunisia to see who tops the group. Yes, Tunisia will be on more familiar territory being in the north of Africa. But one thing I know Nigeria likes is good pitch. Brother, we're going to play on good pitches. We know Morocco, there will be no problem. You know? So I really, really believe this will be a very easy group for Nigeria. To be honest, anything less than 9 points, we should be ashamed of ourselves. Because even Tunisia, let's be honest, squad for squad, player for player, even manager for manager now.
Yeah.
And we have a mission to still get our revenge for that Afcon that they knocked us out
in 2021.
You know, I didn't want to mention Man Connect, but that's what most people remember.
Yeah.
So I think honestly, Nigeria, we should be very ecstatic. Go and give them the best preparation because there should be no excuse.
No. I think I agree with you. There really should be no excuse. Tunisia is the toughest team that we're going to face in this group. And if we look at their recent results, you know, losing against Gambia in qualification, losing against Comoros in qualification, this is not the best Tunisia side that we've ever seen. I don't even think that they are as strong as when they beat us in 2021. So if we do what we are supposed to do, there's no reason why. Unless if maybe they're our last game of the group, we've already won the first 2 games and we're taking a little bit of rotation and just trying to rest players for the knockout round. Then if maybe we draw against them, you can understand because of the different circumstances. But on paper, you should look at Tunisia and say, okay, win. You should look at Uganda and say win. You should look at Tanzania and say win. I was so happy when I saw this group because honestly, this is as easy as we could have hoped for. The reality of it is that Afcon groups are never that easy. And I just look at this group and I'm like, wow, you know, even if we should top the group, but even if we don't top the group, no reason to not finish second. The reality of it is that you always want to go and top your group, but we know the way Afcon is. There will be some surprises. Some teams that we think will top their group wouldn't. And ultimately, even if you top the group, you might still be facing a difficult team in the round of 16.
Exactly, because someone else could have messed up in their own.
If you finish second, it can work in your favor. But this is a group that we should be winning. I think
And
9 points
now, any of our mates in that pot 1, they would pay to have our group.
to have our group, literally.
For sure.
I think 9 points, or at the very minimum 7 points, if it's that we're rotating players against Tunisia, and then that allows us to maybe just draw against them. But I'm really looking forward to this one. We'll wrap up with Nigeria's group again. So let's just move on for now to Group D. In Group D, we have Senegal. Of course, we know the quality that Senegal have. They are going up against DR Congo, Benin Republic, and Botswana. Senegal, I mean, as you say, we know the Senegalese team. We know the quality that they have. They are a team that constantly produces talent. They have the best young player in Africa. And of course, they'll be looking forward to competing again and trying to win this competition. DR Congo is a team that can spring up a surprise on any given day. We saw them knock out Egypt at the last Afcon. They've been champions 2 times, last time in 1974, so they haven't tasted success in the Afcon recently. But then they are a team that on any given day, if you're not playing at your best, they can still compete. Benin Republic under Gennaro Rohr, we know that they've been trying so hard, they've been fighting, quarterfinalists in 2019, and they'll be hoping that they can do even much better in this tournament. And Botswana is one of those teams that, very low population country, they don't have that much of a history, but we know that not just in football, in different sports right now, Botswana are on the up, and they'll be looking at this AFCON as a potential opportunity for them to really stamp themselves in African football. In qualification, they lost against Mauritania and Egypt, but otherwise, they had a decent qualification round. So it's going to be an interesting group. Not the toughest group, I think, but still is a group that could pose 1 or 2 surprises. How are you feeling about this one?
I totally agree, AyoT. Like, as you just mentioned, this is a classic Africa Cup of Nations group. Underrate your opponents at your peril. When you look at Senegal, yes, Senegal are the big boys of the group, but we've even seen in certain qualification games, Senegal are not as high scoring as they used to be. They've been winning games 1-0, 2-0. They beat Malawi 4-0, but that's because Malawi had a red card. You can tell that while they have Lamine Camara and quite a few players coming in, maybe Iliman India might be someone that they look towards, but they definitely need that next Sadio Mane. Sadio Mane is not getting any younger.
Yeah.
So they're one of those teams that you can almost compare to. When a team looks so good, and then all of a sudden everybody realizes, oh wait, all our best players are 32, 33. Ghana Gates playing games.
Yeah.
Koulibaly is how old? Sadio Mane will be 33 in April. So when you look at their squad, you begin to just worry that, okay, do they have the succession plan there and ready to step up? But I'm sure if we go through League One teams, we'll see quite a lot of...
and they have a few, to be fair to them, they have quite a few young players on, you mentioned Lamine Camara, they have Pape Matassa who plays for Spurs, they have Nicolas Jackson who plays for Chelsea, so they have some...
God, I totally forgot about Jackson.
So they have some, even though Jackson doesn't really start games for them, but they have some young players. Somebody like an Edward Mendy will probably be looking at this as maybe his last AFCON. Or might want to go to the World Cup and then retire after. They have Habib Diarra who plays for RC Strasbourg in France, also a young 21-year-old player that is coming up. They have Eladji Diouf, a midfielder that plays for Slavia Prague. So they obviously it's different.
To be honest,
Crepin Diatta plays for AS Monaco. So they are a team that still has quality. You're right. Their best players are old, but they have young players that are coming up. Somebody like Ibuledia is probably at his peak right now, playing for Lazio, with Fisadele Bashir. So it could be an interesting one. And then, of course...
You make no doubt about it. Like, there's still something like aura in African football. Look, Pot 1 is Pot 1 for a reason.
Yeah.
If you play Senegal on any given day, they've shown that they have the chops to win. They won the last edition before Ivory Coast. So you still expect them to stop this group. But a team I find very interesting in this group is DR Congo, because DR Congo, they blow hot and cold. They went to the semi-finals of Afcon, but then in qualifying for the World Cup, sometimes they're a bit higgy-haga. You're not really sure what to expect from them. They could beat Tanzania back-to-back, but they will lose to Guinea away. They lost to Ethiopia in their own home.
Yeah.
So DR Congo, and they're literally the opposite of Morocco in the sense that they have no joy getting dual nationals play for them. Even the obvious ones that should be begging DR Congo. Jean-Philippe Mateta would rather go and play Olympics football for France. So shameless.
Play
come
for
on,
DR.
touch this AFCON. That's why I love players like Wissa. So DR Congo, you never know what to expect. I think they're one of the perfect exemplary teams of the hard to predict nature of African football. You don't know what to expect. And as you said with Benin, we know they'll be organized. We know that Grenada Oro is going to make sure that they're a very organized team tactically. They will lean on the strengths of their squad, but we know that in terms of natural ability, it's not necessarily the best. So it should be a tricky one. And even Botswana, I was looking at their results. Botswana beat Cape Verde home and away. The same Cape Verde, everybody was screaming that they like their footballers, and everybody was checking on TikTok because they have fine women during Afcon. So this is a team that clearly you cannot just roll them out. Yes, they got whitewashed by Egypt 4-0 away. But even though Egypt had already qualified, they drew 1-1 at Egypt's home ground. So this is a team that on any given day, they could spring a surprise. I'm not going to pretend like I know any of their players, but rule them out as your peril. Maybe they might be this year's Comoros. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I do expect Senegal and Congo to definitely qualify from this. And maybe Benin might be one of the best third-place teams, but it will be a tricky one and should be an exciting group to watch for sure.
All right. Let's move on quickly to Group E. Group E, we have Algeria with Burkina Faso, Equatorial Guinea, and of course, Sudan. I think, when you look at it, Sudan, many people might not know this, but one-time champions of the Afcon in 1970. Equatorial Guinea, their best finish is 4th place in 2015. Of course, they were Nigeria's group, held us to a draw in the opening game of the last Afcon. And then Burkina Faso is one of those countries that, they are not the strongest, but they always pose a threat. Runners up in 2013, of course, losing to Nigeria. I know that even in that 2013, when they lost to us, a lot of people did not expect them to go that far in the tournament. So we know that Burkina Faso can spring a surprise. But when you look at this group, you have to look at Algeria and say it is pretty much in Algeria's hands to win the group. And then maybe Burkina Faso and Equatorial Guinea will be struggling it out, fighting for that second spot. Group that can potentially see 3 teams qualify, because 4 groups are going to have 3 teams qualify. So this will be also a group that has that potential. Olu, what are your thoughts on Group E?
Very quickly, similar. I think the Algerians will be feeling like the Nigerians, to be honest. This is a group they should expect to dominate. They should win every single game based on talent, based on proximity, performances, all the usual metrics we used to predict, And Algeria will be reeling from having a very bad Afcon last time. So I'm sure they'll be eager to put things right, with their squad. We also know that they've done a good job of getting some of these dual nationals. I mean, Guiri, So I think Algeria should really walk this group. Burkina Faso, I like how you spoke about them. They're a team that always performs more than the sum of their parts, for sure. So I would expect Burkina Faso. In fact, Algeria and Burkina Faso, you never know because Afcon, but I would confidently say they will finish first and second. Equatorial Guinea, ever since the Emiliano Sue issue where
they've lost their
banding, they've lost their talisman. You see their World Cup qualifying, they've lost 3 out of 4 games. I really think that Equatorial Guinea will be benefiting from us having positive thoughts about them in the past. But I really think that they're going to struggle big time in this tournament. In fact, I expect Sudan to perform better than them. And that's because, obviously, us as Nigerians, we also keep our eyes on what's happening with Ghana. And we know that Kwesi Appiah, I think that's his name, former Ghanaian coach, ended up being a Sudanese coach. Yeah. And they went and they beat Ghana. So that tells me that whether you like it or not, this could be a team that could spring a surprise here or two. So like you said, they may potentially have a 3rd place team qualify. But I really think Algeria and Burkina Faso will be feeling very, very confident.
And I'll just point this out that Algeria and Equatorial Guinea were in the same Afcon qualifying group. Algeria won that group, and then Equatorial Guinea finished 8 points behind them in second place.
Wow.
I think Algeria have already kind of shown in the qualifying that there's a big gap between the 2 countries. So maybe Burkina Faso will come and slot in between them.
So,
and then, Sudan, as much as I want to say Sudan might be able to do something in this group, I'll be shocked if they're able to make it out. I think Algeria, Burkina Faso, and Equatorial Guinea, I'll tip those 3 teams to qualify. Equatorial Guinea will probably get their 3 points from beating Sudan, and then maybe that might be enough for them to reach the round of 16, depending on how things play out in all the other groups, of course. But let's move on to the final group, Group F, where we have defending champions Ivory Coast going up against our neighbors, Cameroon, Gabon, and then, of course, Mozambique. It's interesting that whenever you think of Nigeria, people always think of Ghana as as if Ghana is the country that is beside us.
But Cameroon,
but it's actually Cameroon. I mean, Cameroon
pedigree.
Cameroon have pedigree.
World Cups.
Yeah, Cameroon have pedigree.
Afcons.
I mean, Afcon, they've won it 5 times. You know that if they face us in the final, they have the edge over us. I mean, Ivory Coast, of course, defending champions. We saw how they beat us in that final. In fact, we saw the whole comeback story from nearly getting knocked out of their group, qualifying as one of the best third place teams to going all the way to winning that dramatic final against Nigeria. So it's going to be an interesting one. As far as Gabon, I mean, Gabon, not the strongest team, quarterfinalist only twice, but again, it's just a team that on any given day might pose a tough match. I don't necessarily think that they can win this group or they can qualify, but I think that they can pose a threat. And if you're not at your best, and then Mozambique, who you'll probably look at them and say they're going to be the whipping boys of the group, never got out of the group stage, but who knows, maybe this is the year that they really want to impress and show themselves. But Olu, how are you feeling about this group F?
I actually think this is the real group of death of this AFCON. If I'm being honest with you. Like, it seems like it's not, but if you think about it properly and you look at the recent results that the teams have been having, let's start with Ivory Coast. We know that they're the current champions, so they'll be going there feeling full of themselves. However, when you look at recent performances, even, World Cup qualifiers, Ivory Coast have started well. We know they missed the last 2 World Cups, so they're eager to please. They now have facilities and stadiums. And they have a steady stream of talent. Even though you look at their team and sometimes them too, they look like the last AFCON, they had to lean on the Frank Kessies of the world, the Seko Fofanas, the older guys. Max Grado played a few minutes here or there. It was kind of just like destiny for them to win. Even Sebastian Haller, like, let's be honest, now he's playing for FC Utrecht. Like, that was just destiny as far as I'm concerned.
It was written in the stars.
On any given day, Nigeria, we play them 20 times, beat them 19. So when you look at their squad, yes, Adingra, they will say Adingra, but Adingra's not been playing games starting for Brighton. So I think it's an interesting one, but based on the way they've been performing, Ivory Coast can never be ruled out. And they now have the solidity of having a coach who's been there forever. Cameroon, whether you like it or not, one of the biggest birds in Africa. In fact, they've made the most World Cups. They don't mess around with that one. So on any given day, Cameroon could still give you big problems. We know that they have all these internal problems with ETO and the Ministry of Government. So my only thing is Cameroon are sometimes like Nigeria. They could be their own biggest downfall, just if they have internal politics. So let's see how that goes. It'll be interesting to see who will take the mantle from Vincent Abubakar, because I know he's not getting any younger. So that'll be an interesting one to monitor in terms of who could step up. They still have the Tokyo Bambis. They still have a very strong midfield. Look at Baleba at Brighton. Frank Anguissa is playing like the Frank Anguissa from the year that Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia helped Napoli win the title. So you can never discount Cameroon and just the kind of talent they have, So look out for that one.
Well, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if Vincent Abubakar is still their number 9 at that.
I would not be surprised at all, my bro, because I also love players like that where even though sometimes they might get the benefit of the doubt and be giving passes in their national team, the truth is they always show workings.
Yeah.
Mr. Abubakar scores in the World Cup, scores in the Afcon. It's not like Musa and Free Caps, where it's like he doesn't even have any team in Europe, but they want to just say, governor. Like, nobody can watch Abubakar and the way he fights for his country and say, okay,
And doubts his
the impact. Do you understand? But I really think this is one of those groups that is really Afcon trademarked, because Gabon, we know Aubameyang is back in the fold. He's playing well. Even the last Afcon, we know that they did pretty well. I think they got knocked out in the round of 16. They were quite unlucky to get knocked out. But when you think about their team, they have these, especially at attacking positions, they have some wingers like really fast. I've gotten Boanga that went to MLS, and there's another guy in my mind. But I'm telling you, like, on a good day, Gabon can really show it. What I also like in this group is the subplot, because Ivory Coast and Gabon are in the same World Cup qualifying group. And guess what? They occupy the top 2 positions right now. Ivory Coast have played 4 games, they've won 3 and drawn 1. Gabon have played 4 games, they've won 3 and lost 1. So that means that Gabon are literally just 1 point behind Ivory Coast. Although we must also mention that Ivory Coast have not conceded any goals in World Cup qualifiers. So I still think Ivory Coast are by far the strongest team here. And they now have that chemistry with MS Fire as their coach. So I expect them to top this group. But I really believe that on any given day, Gabon could really show workings in this group. In fact, Mozambique, we cannot discount Mozambique. We remember the kind of games they gave Egypt and Ghana in the last AFCON, even though they didn't make the knockouts. They also have that guy, Ronaldo, Atletico Madrid. And if you look at their World Cup qualifiers, this is a team that's clearly learning how to play better than individuals they have. They're literally neck and neck with Algeria in World Cup qualifiers. Mozambique are one of those. This is why we said we thank God for our own group, because if you are playing this Mozambique team on the wrong day and you don't do your research, they could really catch you out. In fact, Uganda, even in this, they are same World Cup qualifying group. And I know where to be found. Okay, they're not that far. They won 2 games, but it should be an interesting group. But the whole point is I really think this is the banana skin group because Ivory Coast Cameroon is a West African derby, whether we like it or not. And you can't really say which team will win on any given day. And Gabon on their day give any of these teams a run for their money too. So it's hard to predict. I think we'll definitely see 3 teams come out from this group unless there's an issue with a lot of draws. But really, really exciting. There should be one for the books once the tournament gets started.
I agree. You've mentioned a lot. I'll just say Mozambique with Geni Katamo, the sporting player on their team, always a player that poses a threat. In Afcon qualifying, they only fell once against Mali, which you cannot really fault them for losing narrowly to Mali. Gabon, in Afcon qualifying, they only lost home and away against Morocco. So they're also a team coming into it with, a fair amount of confidence. And like you rightly mentioned, they are going neck and neck with in their world qualifying group. So it's going to be an interesting one. I'm really looking forward to it. As far as the whole Afcon, let me ask you, who do you think? I mean, we're making these predictions in January, so of course things might change between now and December. But who do you think can be a team to spring up the biggest surprise in this tournament?
That's a great question right now. I don't know if we'll call it a surprise, but when I look at how Algeria performed in the last Afcon and the fact they didn't make the last World Cup, now they're back to the comforts of like being in North Africa. I really think I expect Algeria to have a very strong tournament. When you look at the teams that we might call lesser nations that we expect, so to speak, my mind still goes back to either Gabon or South Africa. Just because Gabon, the confidence this year, Bamiyang is probably thinking this is my last chance, both to make the World Cup and to play in an Afcon. So there's clearly some kind of momentum that's hitting them with Gabon. So I'd say Gabon. And then South Africa, look, the confidence you get from finishing third in an Afcon cannot be discounted. Hopefully they will not make the World Cup, which means we do. So maybe that will knock their confidence. But you have to admit that as a team, they look like a really solid bunch. And now they've got Lau Foster back in the fold. And they're one of those teams that the chemistry really looks like it could work in their favor. Yeah. So I'd say those 2 teams from what I could see.
I'll just jump in and say South Africa not qualifying for the World Cup does not necessarily mean that we do, but I understand what you're saying.
If that happens and we don't, they need to knock Eritrea for it.
But for me, I would look at Benin Republic as the team that I think can bring a big surprise in this. I like what Genabro is doing with them. I like the drive, the fights that their players show. And, when I look at their group, I think that is a group that they can finish second, behind Senegal. And then, of course, depending on how the bracket shapes up in the knockout round, who knows how far they can go, maybe quarterfinal, maybe semifinals. But I have some belief in Benin Republic. Just for the sake of time, let us wrap up very quickly. I said I wanted us to just conclude the group's talk with Nigeria's group again. So just to remind people, we have Nigeria, Tunisia, Uganda, and Tanzania. Olu, when you look at this group, let's take our necks out now in January. 9 points?
9 points. 9 points. I think especially, look, the last 2, Nigeria were very good Afcon performers. We all know that. We do not joke once it comes to tournament football. Even the tournament where Tunisia knocked us out, remember, we got 9 points from our first 3 games.
Yeah.
We beat Egypt.
I remember we were cruising in that group
very
stage.
well. And guess what? Even the last one where we got 7 points, we beat Ivory Coast. So the teams that could have caused us issues, remember that 2019 where we lost to Madagascar after we'd won our first 2 games? I don't see Uganda or Tanzania having enough to, spring a surprise on us. And I think our boys have that hunger. When you even listen to interviews with Ola Aina and Co. talking about the strength of the squad or the hunger they have, just to make things right after not winning Afcon, I really think that as far as the coach is able to focus this, they're going on a mission. And that mission is to bring back that trophy because I'm sorry, a team like Nigeria, we need to be carrying Afcons, man. We can't be in for a decade each time to be picking up. It happens every 2 years. For the talent we have by far the biggest population on the continent. We have it tough. So I don't want to hear no stories. 9 points, beat everybody. And in fact, make sure Maduka plays that game against Tunisia just for retribution. And I'm sticking my neck out. It must be 9 points.
I'm also going to go ahead and say 9 points. I'm tempted to say 7 because, like I said, maybe we win our first 2 and rotate players. But I think even when you look at the pool of players that we have, I don't care which 26 players are called up for the tournament. You want to believe that whatever permutation or combination of those players should be able to defeat the 3 teams that are in this group.
Absolutely.
Tunisia are not the best Tunisia that we've seen. Uganda and Tanzania, with all due respect to them, should not be a team that's posing a threat to us. Now, I'm very well aware that it's not by name. I'm very well aware that we're still struggling to beat teams like Rwanda, teams like Zimbabwe. So anything can happen. But again, when it comes to tournaments, the Super Eagles get serious. It's not like qualification where they might be doing anyhow. In the tournaments, we tend to get serious. And I want to say 9 points out of 9.
Absolutely.
To wrap up this conversation, I mean, Morocco is hosting the Afcon. We know how prepared they are. We know what kind of nation they are when it comes to facilities, organization, all that kind of stuff. Do you believe that this Afcon is going to be the best ever Afcon?
That's a great question. In my honest opinion, that Ivory Coast Afcon was 10 over 10. Like, let's be honest, from everything that we expected,
from facilities to refereeing to
everything,
entertainment to the drama. Africa, we must have an entertainment.
The reason why we cannot say 100% is because ultimately, what will determine how amazing a tournament is the football that's played on the pitch.
Yeah.
Ivory Coast had every kind of giants being slayed, whether it's Egypt, Ghana, Nigeria, even Ivory Coast resurrecting from the dead. There's no kind of drama we do not have at AFCON. Even, Eric Chelle and his team almost winning. Like, everything was just chaos, but in the best way possible. So we can't say 100% until we see the football being played. But if we look at the tangible things that we can hold our hands on, stadiums. This is a team that's trying to host the World Cup in 5 years' time after. Stadiums, facilities, accommodation, ease of travel. Even us, we all know where we're located. Let's be honest, this Morocco one is probably going to be the easiest or one of the easier Afcons that we can also make without worrying too much about, okay, can we get there? What's the flight situation? This one, that one. So I expect that Morocco are going to put all stops out, especially because it's been almost 50 years since they hosted it. So I really expect from an organizational standpoint, we should see the best ever AFCON. But ultimately, what makes AFCON is the football that's played. And we cannot tell until the games happen.
The games begin.
So we'll see.
But I think you've just kind of said what I was thinking. I think in terms of organization, facilities, the pitches, everything is going to be top notch. We saw the referees at the last AFCON, so I want to believe that they will keep up the same standard and the refereeing will be top notch at this AFCON. Like you said, the football is the most important thing, but knowing Africa, I know that there's going to be interesting storylines. There's going to be drama. There's going to be things that we expect to do without disappoint. There's going to be the underdog stories. So honestly, I'm expecting it to be the best AFCON. I really am. And I know that Morocco is a Muslim nation, but the fact that the AFCON is hosted during Christmas, I want to believe that Morocco, being aware of the fact that they are going to be hosting people from all the different countries in Africa and around the world, would also try to do something within the cities to just give it that extra feel. Because if I'm leaving my house, if I'm leaving my family in Christmas time to go for a tournament, at least give me a little bit of that Christmas feeling now. Yeah, give me the vibes.
Absolutely.
Because, it's essentially a tourist attraction during that time. So you also, have to give us a little bit of
this
the vibe.
Is going to be the first AFCON that is being hosted in the run-up to a World Cup since 2010. And I have a feeling that added incentive. Mind you, we're going to have 9 African countries. A lot of us will be, hopefully, Nigeria one of them.
Maybe even 10, depending on how the intercontinental playoffs go.
So I feel like that is going to add some element of spice. Players are going to want to be playing for their World Cup spots, wanting to show the world that, look, we're ready.
Yeah.
Also, because it's December time, apart from Premier League football, everybody's going to focus their eyeballs on AFCON. I don't know what it was like in Canada, but for sure in this London, this last AFCON was the most watched AFCON that I know in my eyes, that people said, you know what, whether African, we're watching it for sure. So I think those intangibles should lead to, by God's grace, the best tournament ever we've seen. And
yeah. For sure. And see, the AFCON, that last AFCON was very much talked about even here in Canada. I remember one thing that came back to bite me in the behind was the day of the final. I was going to run some errands early that morning, and then I ran into some girls that were wearing Ivory Coast jerseys. I was bantering them that morning. They live in my building, and I was bantering them that morning that we're going to beat you, blah, 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 when we're in the elevator together. And then they now happen to see me later in the evening after the game, and they were laughing at me. And I said, "Who told me to open my mouth?"
The game is the game.
The game is the game. You give it, you have to be able to take it. But I'm expecting a fantastic tournament. I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully the Super Eagles can shine and can go all the way to lift that trophy. Getting to the final is nice, but winning it is nicer.
Can we at least say Nigeria, we reached the point where we're not going to Afcon to make up numbers anymore? I'm sorry. We always come third or second, but I'm sorry, we as a nation, with the talent we have, the fact that Nike refused to sign anybody else except us, there's a certain expectation. I'm sorry. And look, man, back-to-back African Footballer of the Year. We have one goal and one goal only. Bring back that trophy.
And this generation of Nigerian footballers, so talented, so many stars around the world, you guys need a trophy to your name to be able to say, yes, we did it. Players like William Troost-Ekong, this might be their last Afcon. They need that trophy. Players like Uncle K, he's won it before. I don't know if he's going to be in the team, but he wants to win it again. Players like Ndidi needs to win an Afcon. This generation of talents that we have.
Be for all his almost 90 caps.
Literally,
and he's having his best season so far. So he's definitely
we need to win this Afcon.
And we must not get complacent to the point where we say, we went to the final back. No.
See. And I mean, a lot can change between now and December. Players can come, players can go. Some players, I'm not on wood. I'm not cursing anybody, but some people will miss out through injury. Like, there's so much that is going to happen.
Can you imagine Osimhen's hunger as well? Like, yes, he had a very good Afcon, but those that not watch the tournament properly, the things they are saying. I scored only one goal.
Yeah.
As if it not win all.
And between now and then, Osimhen might be playing for Man U or Arsenal or Chelsea. We don't know, man. So it's going to be an exciting one. Of course, everybody that's watching this, please let us know what you expect to happen in the comments. Let us know your favorite group of death, the group that I think is easiest. Let us know how you think Nigeria or your country, if you're not Nigerian, will perform at the tournament, who you think can be a dark horse. And then, of course, when the Afcon is drawing closer, when we are done with all the world qualifying, or at least the world qualifying that is taking place this year, and then we'll really do a countdown to the Afcon. We'll talk about it, deeper. But I want to thank everybody for sticking with us and for watching this video. Please make sure you like the video, make sure you share to your friends so that they can engage with us. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to EaglesTracker. And of course, subscribe to Olu's channel, Nigeria Football Weekly, so that you can enjoy full dose of Nigerian football content back to back to back to back. On EaglesTracker, we have more exciting content coming for you this year. Interviews, exclusive interviews, content. We're hoping to cover the Afcon. Of course, I'm planning to be in Morocco for the Afcon in December as well. It's going to be an exciting year. And again, I just want to thank everybody for sticking with us. And Olu, thank you to you for joining me and for doing this draw review with me.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. And good luck to the Super Eagles. We'll reconvene in March for big business.
Yeah.
So, thanks, everyone.
Right. Thank you very much. Bye.